Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sun Moon Audiobook, the channel where we share wisdom and inspiring book journeys to help you grow and develop your best self, inside and out. Beneath the glow of a lonely streetlight, a young man sits in his rusted car, staring at the empty road ahead. The air hums with the faint rhythm of distant traffic, the world rushing somewhere fast, while he feels trapped in neutral. In his pocket, there's a wallet with nothing but a few crumpled bills. In his heart, there's something heavier, a quiet rebellion whispering that life can't just be about surviving until Friday, paying bills, and dying inside a routine. That man was MJ DeMarco. And out of that night, out of frustration, anger, and a burning hunger for freedom, came the seed of what would become the Millionaire Fastlane. MJ DeMarco is not your typical motivational author. He didn't grow up with a trust fund, nor did he find wealth through inheritance, luck, or crypto hype. He was a man who once drove a beat-up car delivering pizzas, watching the world's wealthy roll by in Lamborghinis, and he made a decision that changed everything. Instead of envying success, he decoded. His voice isn't that of a soft-spoken guru promising ease. It's the raw voice of someone who walked through the long nights of doubt, failed 1,000 times, and eventually built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing but a laptop and an idea. His message is a wake-up call to anyone asleep in the illusion of the slow lane, the traditional path we're all taught to follow. He begins by dismantling that illusion. The slow lane, it's the path society calls safe. Go to school, get good grades, find a job, work hard, save, invest, wait for compounding interest to make you rich when you're old. But as DeMarco puts it, that path isn't safe, it's the riskiest bet of all because it gambles your entire life on time you can't get back. The slow lane promises security, but what it delivers is decades of sacrifice. You trade your youth for a paycheck, your dreams for a pension, you live for weekends and call that freedom. And so he invites us to see the world differently, to stop accepting the script that was written for us. Because the truth, he says, is brutal. Your job won't make you rich, your savings won't buy you freedom. And the advice, just work hard, is only a leash disguised as wisdom. The slow lane makes you a consumer in someone else's dream, not the creator of your own. There's another path, though, the sidewalk. That's the reckless road, the one filled with instant gratification, credit card debt, and short-term highs. It's where people spend money they don't have to impress people they don't know. The sidewalk is an illusion of freedom, nights of pleasure, but mornings of regret. It's the YOLO lifestyle that feels alive for a moment but dies in the weight of consequence. DeMarco doesn't romanticize it. He's lived close enough to see it destroy lives. The sidewalk is chaos without control. The slow lane is control without freedom. Neither will lead you to wealth, not the kind that sets you free. And then there's the fast lane. The path few understand, fewer still dare to walk. The fast lane isn't about overnight riches or magical thinking, it's about creating systems that detach your income from your time. It's about leveraging scale, automation, and value to escape the trade of hours for dollars. When you enter the fast lane, your money works while you sleep, and your business becomes the engine, you're not the fuel. It's the difference between being a driver and being driven. DeMarco paints the picture vividly. Imagine two people, both starting at 25. One follows the traditional path, steady job, small raises, a 401k, maybe retiring at 65 with enough to breathe. The other builds a scalable system, a business, a platform, a product that serves thousands. 10 years later, one is still waiting for permission to live. The other owns their time. The difference isn't luck, it's leverage. But to understand the fast lane, you first need to break free from what DeMarco calls the wealth equation that society teaches, the lie that time plus money equals wealth. The truth, he says, is that time is the real currency of life. You can always make more money, but you'll never make more time. So why spend the best years of your life saving pennies while someone else profits from your hours? The fast lane isn't about greed. It's about reclaiming time, the one asset that truly matters. He offers an uncomfortable mirror. Look around. How many people do you know who are truly free? not the ones flashing cars on social media. Real freedom. The ability to wake up and decide how to live your day. To create, to rest, to travel, to give. That's the life wealth was meant to buy. But you can't reach it by renting your time to someone else forever. Wealth, DeMarco says, is not a destination, it's a system, a process that grows because you've built value that scales. You, who are listening right now, you've been taught to believe that wealth is for the lucky or the gifted. But it's not. It's for the creators. The ones who solve problems, who see needs and fill them, who turn ideas into engines. That's the heartbeat of the Fastlane service. The more lives you improve, the richer your life becomes. Money, in this world, isn't evil. It's the echo of value. Every dollar you earn is proof that you've helped someone. DeMarco's story becomes proof of concept. He built an online company that helped people track limousine services, a simple idea born from his own experience as a driver. He didn't invent the internet. He didn't have a business degree. But he understood the laws of value and scale. He automated what others did manually. He built systems instead of schedules. Within a few years, he sold that company for millions. And what he discovered was profound. It wasn't the money that changed him. It was the freedom to choose what mattered. The ability to design a life, not survive one. But DeMarco warns, the fast lane is not a shortcut. It's not easy. It demands responsibility, discipline, and courage. It's the road of creators, not consumers. The road where comfort is the enemy. He calls this the entrepreneurial paradox, the idea that freedom comes through temporary slavery to your vision. For a time, you'll work harder than anyone else, not because someone orders you to, but because your dream deserves it. You'll build what others can't see yet. You'll face doubt, failure, and fatigue. But unlike the slow lane, every step you take compounds toward liberation. There's a mantra that echoes through the book like a heartbeat. Wealth is not about adding. It's about multiplying. Multiply your value, your impact, your reach. Multiply what you create, not how long you work. That's the secret of the fast lane: exponential growth through systems and scale. DeMarco calls this the law of affection. Wealth comes from creating something that affects millions. It's not about serving everyone, it's about serving deeply enough that your work echoes beyond your presence. He gives examples that feel almost mythic but real. Think of Steve Jobs, who didn't trade hours for money. He built a product that changed how millions lived. Think of Oprah, who turned her voice into a platform that multiplied across decades. These are fastlaners, people who built roads, not lanes. They didn't wait for permission, they created opportunity. But DeMarco also reminds us, the fast lane isn't only about grand empires. It's about mindset. A freelancer who builds digital products instead of selling hours is walking it. A creator who monetizes their platform instead of chasing followers is walking it. A small business owner who automates what once demanded presence, they're all moving in the right direction. The fast lane starts in the mind, long before it shows in the bank. He breaks it down into commandments, principles that guard your path. The commandment of control. Never surrender your power to someone else's platform or job. The commandment of entry. True wealth lies in difficulty. If it's easy, it's crowded. The commandment of need. Build what people need, not what you wish they wanted. The commandment of time. Design systems that operate without you. And the commandment of scale. The wider your reach, the wider your impact, and the greater your freedom. But at the heart of all of it lies a truth he learned the hard way. Success doesn't start with money. It starts with purpose. If you chase only dollars, you'll burn out when the journey tests you. But if you chase meaning, if your product, service, or mission truly helps others, then every hardship becomes fuel. The fast lane isn't driven by greed. It's driven by service. I remember when I first read this, sitting in a small apartment with bills stacked on the counter. I felt the weight of every slow lane lie pressing on my chest. But something shifted when I realized that wealth wasn't about luck, it was about creation. I stopped waiting for raises and started creating value. That single mindset shift changed the direction of my life. DeMarco's voice felt like a mentor sitting beside me, saying, "You don't have to play by their rules. You can build your own. That's what this book is: permission to stop waiting. To stop believing that someday things will change if you just work harder. Because they won't, not unless you change how you think. Not unless you start creating instead of consuming. The world doesn't reward effort, it rewards value. And value is born when courage meets need. DeMarco digs deeper into the illusions that hold us captive, the myths we've been spoon-fed since childhood. Go to school, they said. Get good grades. Get a safe job. But look around, he asks. How many of the people who followed that formula are free? How many are happy? The system isn't designed to make you wealthy. It's designed to make you compliant. It rewards predictability, not creativity. The slow lane disguises itself as wisdom, but it's a cage built on comfort and fear. And most people never question it, because questioning it means stepping into the unknown. He calls this trap the slow lane mindset, a mental program that tells you wealth is a distant dream, something that arrives at 65 if you've been obedient enough. It whispers that risk is dangerous, that ambition is arrogance, that dreams are for the reckless. And the longer you believe it, the more it becomes true. Because wealth begins not in money, but in thought. If your thoughts are slow, your life will be too. To escape, DeMarco says, you have to unlearn everything they taught you. You have to see the truth behind the mask, that the slow lane promises comfort now, but suffering later. The fast lane demands effort now, but freedom later. Every choice you make compounds, and the compound effect doesn't just apply to money. It applies to habits, to discipline, to courage. What you plant today, you harvest in years. The question is, are you planting weeds or trees? He shares what he calls the wealth trinity, the three essential currencies of a rich life: time, health, and freedom. Money is only the tool that protects and amplifies them. Most people trade all three away chasing a paycheck. They burn their youth to earn money they'll spend treating the stress of earning it. They call it success, but it's really servitude. True wealth, DeMarco reminds us, is the ability to live fully, to have control over your time, energy, and choices. And this is where the fast lane diverges from everything we've been taught. The fast lane isn't about saving money, it's about creating assets that produce money. Not working for compound interest, but creating businesses that are compound interest. Instead of clipping coupons, you design systems. Instead of waiting for luck, you build leverage. That's the great reversal when you stop working for money and make money work for you. DeMarco introduces the concept of leverage through what he calls money trees. A money tree is an asset that grows income without your constant involvement. A website, a digital product, a subscription business, an app, a franchise, an invention. Anything that can scale and sustain itself. He says, if you don't own a money tree, you work for one that belongs to someone else. Every paycheck you receive comes from someone else's tree. They took the risk. They built the system. You're just pruning their branches. But building your own tree takes courage. It means stepping into uncertainty. DeMarco doesn't sugarcoat it. You will fail. You will doubt. You will face moments when quitting feels easier. But that's exactly what separates the fast laner from the crowd. Because failure on this path isn't fatal, it's fertilizer. Every mistake teaches you how to design better, think sharper, and move faster. The slow lane punishes mistakes. The fast lane rewards adaptation. He tells a story about how he almost gave up. His first business ideas failed miserably: websites that no one visited, products no one bought. But every failure taught him what not to do. Eventually, he realized something profound. Success doesn't come from finding the right idea. It comes from becoming the kind of person who can execute any idea. The fast lane isn't a destination. It's an identity. You, right now, have that same potential. You might not have capital, connections, or a fancy degree, but you have creativity, awareness, and will. That's your starting point. You can build systems from scratch, even from a laptop at your kitchen table. The internet leveled the playing field. Opportunity no longer hides behind walls of privilege. But to see it, you have to think differently. DeMarco calls this fast lane mathematics, the formula that redefines wealth. It's not about saving 10% of your income or budgeting your lattes. It's about multiplication. In the fast lane, small changes can produce exponential outcomes because your system operates on scale. Instead of earning $20 an hour, you might create something that earns $20,000 a month, not because you're working harder, but because your reach has multiplied. He breaks it down into what he calls the 5 fast lane business seeds. These are the fertile grounds where money trees grow. Internet, where distribution is infinite and cost is minimal. Websites, apps, digital products. These let you serve thousands with one creation. Innovation, where solving real problems becomes your passport to wealth. Think invention, disruption, improvement. Content, where ideas become influence. Books, courses, media, podcasts, intellectual property that lives beyond your effort. Service, where scale comes through systems. Franchises, software, automation multiplying human service with technology. Rental assets, real estate, or digital properties that generate passive flow. He doesn't say you have to use all, only that you must plant in fertile soil. If your path doesn't allow scale, automation, or control, it's not fast lane soil. That's why freelancing alone isn't enough. If you're the product, you're still trapped. The goal is to detach your income from your presence, and then comes one of the most powerful lessons in the book, the Sense Framework. It's the DNA of every fast lane business. CNTES stands for control. You must own your system. If someone else can pull the plug on your income, it's not true freedom. Entry. The barrier to entry should be high enough to protect your lane. The harder it is, the less competition. Need. Your product must solve a real problem or fulfill a deep desire. Wants fade, needs endure. Time. Your system must work independently of your direct labor. Automate, delegate, or systematize. Scale. Your solution must reach beyond your immediate environment. Serve hundreds, thousands, millions. Each letter is a reminder: if your idea fails one of these tests, you're building a job, not a business. DeMarco himself used this framework unconsciously when he built his limousine website. He owned it fully. Few could copy it easily. It solved a real problem for customers. It ran 247 without his presence, and it scaled nationally. But he warns about the traps along the way, the mirages that look like fast lanes but aren't. The biggest? Multi-level marketing, freelancing without scale, real estate flipping without systems. These are often just slow lanes disguised in fast lane clothing. They promise freedom, but tie you back to time. You can't escape the equation if you're still the engine. Midway through his journey, DeMarco pauses to ask the question that stops many of us cold. What do you really want? Because if you're chasing money for its own sake, you'll never have enough. The true destination isn't dollars, it's freedom. The ability to wake up and choose. The right to say yes or no without fear. The peace of knowing your life belongs to you. And here, the narration softens, the energy shifts. Imagine this as a quiet moment on a park bench, sunlight spilling through trees, and the wind whispering through the leaves. DeMarco admits that even after he sold his company and had millions in the bank, he felt empty. He bought the car, the house, the freedom, but not the fulfillment. That moment taught him that money magnifies who you already are. If you're empty before, you'll just be emptier after. This is the emotional core of the Millionaire Fastlane, that wealth without purpose is poverty in disguise. True success isn't about escaping work, but about aligning your work with meaning. Freedom isn't laziness. It's the power to choose meaningful effort. He invites you, yes you, to look inward. What problems light you up to solve? What skills make you lose track of time? What pain in your life could become the seed of someone else's solution? The fast lane begins when your pain meets purpose. DeMarco explains that purpose, not profit, is the foundation that sustains you when the journey gets hard, and it will get hard. The road to freedom is lined with obstacles, doubt, and voices that whisper, be realistic. But he insists, the world doesn't need more realism. It needs more vision. Those who change their lives and others are the ones who dare to dream audaciously and execute relentlessly. He calls this inner drive The producer mindset. In every moment, you are either producing or consuming. Consumers live for comfort. They buy entertainment, comfort, and validation. Producers, on the other hand, create those very things. They build solutions, art, businesses, tools, and platforms. Producers drive the economy. Consumers feed it. And the shift from consumer to producer is the first true step into the fast lane. Think about the difference. When you watch Netflix, you're consuming. When you create a film or write a script, you're producing. When you buy a course, you're consuming. When you teach and sell one, you're producing. The world quietly divides into these two roles, and wealth flows predictably toward the producers. DeMarco urges you to ask yourself, which side are you feeding more? Every hour you spend scrolling, you're growing someone else's empire. Every dollar you spend without thought, you're fertilizing someone else's dream. But when you create, every ounce of energy compounds back to you like a boomerang of value. Creation is sacred because it multiplies. He says wealth is a formula, and it's brutally simple: wealth, net profit, asset value. Your job is to build systems that increase both, but the hidden variable is your mindset. Without the right mental framework, even the best opportunity will crumble under self-sabotage. The fast lane begins not in your bank account, but between your ears. He describes the fast lane mindset as 5 intertwined beliefs. Responsibility. You are the CEO of your life. Blame, excuses, and entitlement are poison. Control. Freedom is earned by taking control of your circumstances, not waiting for external rescue. Choice. Every small decision compounds. Every yes and no builds your trajectory. Learning. Education doesn't end with school. It begins when you start applying. Time value. You treat time as sacred, the most precious, unrenewable asset. To drive the lesson home, he contrasts 2 archetypes: the sidewalker and the fastlaner. The sidewalker complains about lack of opportunity. The fastlaner creates opportunity. The sidewalker sees obstacles. The fastlaner sees puzzles. The sidewalker trades time for security. The fastlaner trades fear for freedom. And here, he shares one of his most powerful stories: the night he bought his first Lamborghini. For years, that car had been a symbol of freedom to him. He'd seen one as a broke pizza driver, and it ignited something inside him, not envy, but possibility. When he finally had the wealth to buy it, he realized the car wasn't the destination. It was proof of transformation. The Lamborghini wasn't about luxury. It was a mirror reflecting the man he had become: disciplined, creative, unafraid to think differently. That's why he tells you, don't chase symbols of wealth. Chase the process that creates them. Because the car, the house, the freedom, they're all byproducts. If you chase the byproduct, you get emptiness. If you chase the process, you get both meaning and reward. Then he turns his attention to the illusion of time. The slow lane tells you to enjoy life later, after decades of work. But DeMarco insists that later is a mirage, the graveyard of dreams. Life doesn't wait for retirement. You can't defer joy. The point of building wealth is to live richly now in health, freedom, and purpose. He says, if you wouldn't trade places with your future self, you're on the wrong road. That's why the fast lane is so urgent. It's not just about getting rich, but about reclaiming your years. Time is your most valuable equity, and every day spent in the wrong lane is interest you'll never recover. So, he challenges you to audit your life. Where is your time going? What are you building? Are you growing assets or renting existence? He calls this the time trade dilemma. Most people sell their hours to the highest bidder, never realizing that time, once sold, can never be repurchased. The fast laner instead builds systems that liberate time through automation, delegation, and innovation. This leads to another of his profound insights. Freedom is bought with process, not payoff. Everyone wants the result, the millions, the travel, the lifestyle, but few want to endure the process. Yet, ironically, it's the process that transforms you into the kind of person capable of sustaining wealth. DeMarco gives an example. Imagine 2 people running a marathon. One tries to buy the finish line by cheating. The other trains every day, bleeding through miles. The first might reach the goal faster, but collapses because they never built endurance. The second crosses the line strong, and can run any race after. Wealth works the same way. The fast lane isn't a shortcut, it's a discipline. He talks about execution, the art of turning ideas into reality. Ideas are worthless without action. The marketplace doesn't reward dreamers, it rewards doers. He calls this the execution gap, the vast canyon between inspiration and impact. Everyone says they want to start a business, but few are willing to persist through the tedium of building it. So how do you execute? DeMarco gives a pattern: start small, act fast, learn constantly. Don't wait for perfection. Test your idea in the real world. Listen to feedback. Adjust quickly. Perfection is paralysis. Progress is power. He tells you to think like a scientist experiment. Observe, iterate. Every product, every website, every system begins ugly, but the willingness to adapt is what refines gold from dust. The secret is not intelligence, but persistence. At this point, he introduces another vital distinction. Wealth isn't created by trading your time, it's created by amplifying your influence. Influence can be technology, content, reputation, distribution, or leadership. The stronger your influence, the less you depend on personal effort. That's how fastlaners build empires that operate in their sleep. They've learned to multiply their presence through systems. But DeMarco also warns about what he calls the poverty of pride. It's the ego that refuses to learn, that fears failure, that seeks validation instead of results. The greatest barrier to wealth, he says, isn't money or circumstance, it's the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we deserve. He breaks it gently. Your life right now is a reflection of the choices you've made, and that's good news, because it means you can choose differently. He offers a mantra, one that echoes like a bell. Control the process, and the process will control the result. Stop obsessing over outcomes. Focus on creation, on systems, on habits. When you nurture the process with consistency, wealth becomes inevitable. And then he touches on the spiritual side of entrepreneurship, a place many business books avoid. The fast lane, at its highest level, is just financial. It's philosophical. It's about mastery, the mastery of self, of fear, of vision. Wealth, he says, is the reflection of who you've become. The richer your mind, the richer your life. As you walk this road, DeMarco invites you to redefine risk. The slow lane sees entrepreneurship as risky. The fast lane sees dependence as the true danger. Which is riskier, relying on one job, one paycheck, one boss, or creating 10 different income streams from your own ideas? The illusion of safety is the greatest risk of all. He says, the comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. That's why every fastlaner must learn to dance with discomfort. The reward for embracing uncertainty isn't just wealth, it's expansion. Then, with quiet intensity, he returns to the listener, to you. If you're still waiting for a sign, he says, this is it. Because somewhere deep inside, you already know the truth. You're not meant for the slow lane. You weren't born to watch life pass by in the rearview mirror of someone else's dream. You were born to build, to create, to lead. And the first step isn't giant, it's simply saying yes to yourself. He says the first step is always small, a single decision, quiet and almost invisible, but it shifts everything. The moment you decide that you will never again rent your time for security, something changes inside you. It's not loud. It's not a Hollywood moment. It's a whisper that becomes a roar. It's the day you stop waiting and start building. DeMarco calls this the moment of awakening, the point when you see the code behind the system. You realize that the economy is not a game you play. It's a game you can design. The people who seem to live effortlessly free, they've all done one thing differently. They've built something that scales beyond them. Their books, software, systems, or ideas live and breathe even when they sleep. He asks you to picture wealth not as a pile of money, but as a river of energy. The slow lane teaches you to fill buckets and guard them. The fast lane teaches you to build the river itself, a current that keeps flowing because it serves others. The more value you pour into the world, the wider your river becomes. And eventually, it sustains you effortlessly. But to build this river, you must first clear your inner blockages, the fears, excuses, and false beliefs that keep you dammed up. DeMarco lists them like shadows we must confront. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't know how. I'm too old. I'm too young. And to each one, he answers the same way. Excuses are expensive. He tells of a friend who always said he wanted to start a business someday. Years later, that friend was still saying it, but now with more fear in his voice because someday had become yesterday. Every excuse is a debt on your potential, and time charges compound interest. DeMarco's message is never cruel, it's compassionate truth. He says the universe doesn't reward wishes, it rewards creation. You don't have to be the smartest or the luckiest, you just have to show up again and again when most people quit. Success is less about talent and more about endurance. At this point, he shares what he calls the 5 Fastlane accelerators. These are the forces that propel your journey once you've started building. Learning velocity. The faster you learn, the faster you adapt. Read, test, fail, and repeat. Execution speed. The faster you act on what you know, the sooner feedback guides you. Network quality. Surround yourself with builders, not dreamers. Environment dictates evolution, value focus. Every decision must create more value for others than it costs you in time or energy. Self-discipline. When motivation fades, discipline drives. He tells a story about one of his early business mentors, a man who made millions not by chasing trends, but by solving boring problems consistently. He wasn't the smartest, DeMarco says, but he was unstoppable. The mentor's success was built on the unglamorous systems, customer service, process. And that, DeMarco insists, is what separates dreamers from builders. One seeks excitement, the other seeks effectiveness. Then, DeMarco dismantles the myth of luck. He says, luck favors the persistent. To the outside world, success looks like luck because people never see the years of invisible grind behind it. They see the outcome, not the process. But behind every overnight success is 1,000 nights of solitude, doubt, and quiet work. He speaks of the event illusion society's obsession with the event of success, the IPO, the book deal, the viral video, while ignoring the process that made it possible. We celebrate the finish line, not the marathon. The Fastlaner, however, falls in love with the process. They wake up not chasing the prize, but refining the craft. This leads to one of the book's deepest teachings. Process is the purpose. When you fall in love with creation, wealth follows naturally. You no longer need external motivation because the act of building becomes fulfilling in itself. Your work becomes art. He reminds you that all great entrepreneurs share one trait: obsession. Not obsession with money, but with problem-solving, improvement, excellence. Steve Jobs obsessed over design simplicity. Elon Musk obsessed over efficiency and innovation. Oprah obsessed over authenticity and empathy. These obsessions became their fast lanes, their rivers. And so, he encourages you to find your obsession. What could you do for years without losing curiosity? What problem keeps tugging at your mind? That's the compass. Follow it, because the fast lane is never linear, it's a spiral, and your unique curiosity is its gravitational pull. But with every ascent comes the test of endurance. DeMarco speaks candidly about the emotional lows, the loneliness of entrepreneurship, the rejection, the self-doubt. There will be nights, he says, when the world feels indifferent, when you'll wonder if you're delusional. That's when most quit. But if you can outlast the valley of despair, you'll see that every test was sculpting your strength. Here, he offers a gentle truth. Wealth is not about escaping struggle, but transforming it into growth. Pain is the tuition of mastery. Every failure is a teacher disguised in frustration. And the sooner you learn to see failure as feedback, the faster you grow. He also challenges a cultural lie that sacrifice is always noble. The slow lane glorifies sacrifice for its own sake: long hours, delayed joy, endless saving. But in the fast lane, sacrifice is strategic. You sacrifice comfort for creation, leisure for leverage, pleasure for purpose. Not forever, but long enough to plant your tree. Then, he talks about money itself, what it truly means. Money is an amplifier, he says. It doesn't change who you are, it reveals it. That's why chasing wealth without self-awareness can lead to misery. If you're insecure, money will magnify it. If you're generous, money will expand your impact. Wealth simply gives you a louder voice, so choose what you'll say. He defines real wealth as freedom, growth, contribution. Freedom to live on your terms, growth to keep evolving, and contribution to leave a legacy that outlives you. When those three align, you don't just get rich, you become whole. DeMarco emphasizes the power of contribution. He says, the fastest way to make $1 million is to help 1 million people. Not as a slogan, but as an equation. The greater the problem you solve, the greater the reward. Every dollar is a vote of appreciation. Every sale is proof of impact. And so he urges you, stop chasing money, start chasing meaning. Money follows meaning. Build what the world needs, not just what it pays for. The fast lane isn't a sprint toward luxury, it's a marathon toward legacy. Then comes a pivotal emotional turn. DeMarco pauses, almost confesses that despite his millions, he once fell into a deep emptiness. He had achieved everything he thought mattered, but still felt hollow. And in that silence, he realized something that changed his life. Purpose is the ultimate profit. It's not how much you earn that defines wealth. It's how much of your soul you preserve while earning it. The real fast lane isn't paved with gold, it's paved with meaning. He encourages you to redefine success as a life that feels good from the inside, not just looks good from the outside. Because if you win the world but lose your peace, you've built a gilded cage. So he began to rebuild his definition of wealth slower, wiser, and deeper. He focused not on net worth, but on net impact, on how many lives he could change through his message, his mentorship, his writing. That's when true fulfillment arrived, not from what he owned, but from what he gave. He begins to describe a kind of quiet evolution, the moment when the pursuit of wealth transforms into the pursuit of wholeness. Because once you've tasted freedom, you start to understand that money was never the finish line. It was just the first door. Beyond it lies something richer, something softer, the art of living well. The freedom to spend your time with purpose, to wake up and not rush, to give without fear, to create without permission. That, DeMarco says, is the real millionaire lifestyle, not yachts and mansions, but sovereignty over your hours. He reminds us that the fast lane doesn't guarantee happiness, it creates the conditions for it. Happiness isn't built by wealth, but by awareness. The goal is not to buy more, but to need less. To reach a place where your joy is not tethered to possessions, but to possibility. Freedom, he says, is when your life becomes your art. This is where DeMarco turns inward again, showing us the paradox of success. That true abundance often emerges when you stop chasing and start creating. You move from accumulation to expression. You stop asking, how can I get more? And start asking, what can I build that matters? That's when your wealth becomes regenerative, it feeds both you and the world. He reintroduces one of the mantras that echoes throughout his work. You are the producer of your own movie. Life isn't happening to you, you're directing it. Most people live like extras, reading someone else's script, waiting for their cue. But you can rewrite the story. You can fire the director who told you that stability is safer than freedom. You can create a new scene where your choices are the plot. To build this life, DeMarco offers the 5 fast lane laws, guiding principles that, when internalized, transform not only how you earn, but how you live. 1. The law of value. Wealth follows value. If you want more money, create more value. Money is not the goal, it's the shadow of service. 2. The law of need. Solve problems that matter. The world doesn't reward effort, it rewards solutions. 3. The law of control. Own your source. If you don't control it, you can't protect it. Dependence is the death of freedom. 4. The law of time. Detach income from time. Build systems that serve even when you rest. 5. The law of scale. Reach beyond yourself. Every system that impacts many magnifies wealth. He ties them together with a simple idea. Wealth is not about working more, it's about working better. It's not about being busier, but about being freer. If you're trapped in endless motion, you're not progressing, you're just spinning faster in the wrong direction. He warns against what he calls false hustle, the glorification of constant activity without strategic direction. Many people wear busyness as a badge of honor, but it's often a mask for fear. True productivity isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. And what matters most is always tied to value, not vanity. Then he talks about habits, the invisible architecture of every life. Success, he says, is not an event but a sequence of choices repeated over time. You don't get rich overnight. You become the kind of person who creates wealth consistently. Every decision compounds not just financially, but psychologically. Discipline compounds into self-trust. Learning compounds into mastery. Gratitude compounds into peace. He encourages you to build habits that align with your future self. If your dream life requires courage, practice small acts of bravery daily. If it demands creativity, carve space for it each morning. You don't build a fast lane by waiting for opportunity. You build it by becoming ready when it arrives. DeMarco also explores the emotional side of wealth, the fear of success, the imposter syndrome, the loneliness of independence. He admits that the fast lane can feel isolating at times. When you reject conventional paths, you also reject the comfort of belonging to the crowd. But he reminds you that isolation is temporary, freedom is permanent. The people who once doubted you will one day thank you or wish they had listened. He tells a story of one night after he sold his company, sitting alone with the silence that followed. No more deadlines, no more grind, just stillness. And in that stillness, he realized how fragile identity becomes when it's built only on achievement. That's when he learned to create not from ambition, but from authenticity. He started writing not to make money, but to tell the truth, to reach the younger version of himself, the kid in the car staring at the streetlights, wondering if life had more to offer. The Millionaire Fastlane became his letter to that kid and to you. He says that's the final stage of wealth, transcendence. When you no longer chase freedom for yourself, but use your freedom to liberate others. When your creation becomes a bridge. And here, the tone softens, intimate, almost meditative. He asks you to imagine waking up one day and realizing you are free, not someday, today. You open your eyes, stretch, and know that your time belongs to you. The world outside is still busy, still rushing, but you move at your own rhythm. You can work if you want. You can rest if you need. You can create, travel, teach, or simply breathe. That's not fantasy. That's the reward of years spent building what matters. He says the only difference between those who achieve this life and those who don't is belief, followed by relentless action. Because belief without action is a wish, and action without belief is burnout. You need both conviction and consistency. He urges you to remember one final truth. You can't change your life in a day, but you can change your direction in one. And once you change direction, momentum builds. Every small win compounds into something extraordinary. He shares the story of a woman who read his book years ago, quit her job, and started a small online business selling handmade planners. She didn't have experience or investors, just a hunger to design a better future. Within 3 years, her brand had thousands of loyal customers. Within 5, she was financially free. Not because she found a shortcut, but because she built systems, served a need, and stayed consistent. That's the legacy of the fast lane, ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they dared to think differently. As the narrative nears its close, DeMarco circles back to his core message that wealth isn't about luxury. It's about liberty. The liberty to live on your own terms. The liberty to choose how you spend your mornings. The liberty to turn your ideas into reality. He repeats the mantra once more, like a gentle rhythm that lingers. Control the process, and the process will control the result. It's not glamorous, but it's true. The universe rewards creation, courage, and consistency. And now, he turns to you softly, like a friend across the table. You, he says, who are listening right now, you already have everything you need. The world isn't waiting to give you permission. The door is unlocked. All that's left is for you to walk through it. He tells you to start today. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Start small, but start. Write the first page. Build the first prototype. Launch the first product. Reach the first customer. Every great Fastlaner began exactly where you are, uncertain, afraid, but willing. Because the secret isn't the idea. It's the act. And then, with his signature clarity, he closes the circle with a metaphor that feels like sunrise. Your life is a seed. You can bury it in fear, or you can plant it in faith. If you water it daily with discipline, patience, and courage, one day it will grow roots deeper than doubt and branches wider than circumstance. That's wealth, not something you chase, but something you cultivate. And as the light rises on this final image, his voice fades into a quiet invitation. Build your lane, drive your dream, and never again hand your keys to someone else. If this story moved you, share it. Tell others what it sparked in you. Leave your reflections below your fears, your hopes, your next step. Because every time you speak your truth, you help another person awaken from the slow lane. And together, maybe, we can turn this quiet revolution of creators into a movement. Please like, share, and subscribe, not just to this voice, but to the life you deserve to build.